Knowing the theory and principles is a very important thing, but even more important is to know practical examples and know how to apply the theory in your own positions. That's why we're gonna dive a bit deeper into the principle of how to play with the initiative, where I publish one video on 3 rules how to play with the initiative, and now we're gonna have a look at another example. So if you don't know the 3 rules of playing with the initiative yet, check out this video before, and now we will dive into the example. So this is the position we are starting from. Black is a pawn down, needs to prove some compensation in form of some initiative. Black also got a pair of bishops, but basically white's pieces are still a bit behind, and if white could catch up, then probably the compensation would also be gone. But black needs to use this temporary advantage again, and that's the point where we want to start. Can you find some way to initiate some initiative or to grow the initiative? And we will continue with what happened in the game, which was knight to g4, which is a very good move. Black is really seizing this opportunity to attack on f2 and on h2, using the fact that he has a few more pieces into the attack on the king side, in fact, and that there are some chances. Now white's best chance would have been to play knight into f5, after which, yeah, black still gets counterplay. For example, bishop takes. Now white got rid of his only defender of the king, and after queen h4, black is doing okay. However, we will check the game even more. White played h3, saying, what is this stupid knight doing there? Does it want to sacrifice itself already on f2? Or what is he planning? And you can think about it for a while, and we will continue with the game. So, in fact, it's very important to know when to strike. So, usually the first 2 steps, bring all the pieces and create threats, come first. So at this position, we are not yet joining the attack with all the pieces, and thus chances are pretty low that the strikes already work. For example, knight f2 might look like a tempting continuation, trying to continue here, but usually you need to bring the pieces first. Here white is just in time to consolidate on f2 and to really strengthen this point. Black already has sacrificed material, so he needs to prove something which is just not there. White is just solid enough to defend on f2, and if he defends well, he will be winning due to the extra material. And it's not just a pawn here. Black really sacrificed the whole piece. So remember this. In practice, sacrifices usually work when you have a big lead, when you have created many threats, your opponent is very passive, then you break him down, not immediately usually. So is there a way to follow principle 1, bring more attackers and create threats? Yeah, there is. Black can bring the queen, and this is actually a very strong move. It's not really a sacrifice yet, because if white took on g4, black could just take on g3, regaining the piece, having weakened white's pawn structure. The g4 pawn is very likely to drop off immediately. The black queen can of course not be taken because this pawn is pinned. Black restores the material equality, and on top of that, yeah, still keeps the initiative going, which is very good. So black is a lot better here. So white saw this, of course, and tried to, yeah, guard the knight, but it's not possible to guard it like directly. It's, yeah, the black rook is taking care of that. So the only move is knight to h1, because other knight moves, they would just drop the pawn on f2. So sadly enough for white, the knight needs to go to the corner, which is a good sign. Now we have activated pieces, forced our opponent's pieces into passivity, and yeah, we created some threats already. Now comes the point we need to think about. Where are some weaknesses? Can we include more attackers? And at this point, and this will also happen to you in your real games, that's why I'm showing it, you will come to a situation where it's not straight, where you not just bring the next piece, sacrifice and mate. So sometimes you need to go and take a step back. And this is exactly the case here. There is no direct knight f2. F2 is just guarded way too much. So we need to spot new weaknesses. And once we do this, we will come up with ideas. So in this position, when I look at it, h3 looks like a hook to me. A hook is a pawn which can be attacked very easily, where you can sacrifice into, and if the pawn was back on h2, this would all not be possible. Another weak pawn is this e4 pawn, especially since it cannot be guarded by f3 as the f pawn is still pinned. And thus the move knight back to f6 is a very strong attacking move indeed, introducing ideas like bishop takes this pawn which is now advanced and then opening up the whole white king, but also very simply just picking up the e4 pawn. So at this point black is already better. White cannot prevent the material equality and try to play queen to e2, which is actually a mistake. White just expected black to recapture the pawn and then try to hold onto the position in the endgame. But at this point, black got reminded of the principles of playing with initiative, not being content with capitalizing on some small advantage too early, but instead bring more pieces and create threats. And this made him find this move bishop to g4, which is very strong. First of all, it brings a new attacker, and second, it creates a threat on the queen. Also note that the bishop cannot be taken, as checkmate on h2 could just not be defended if white tried with bishop f4. Basic tactics, rook takes, knight takes, and queen h2 mate anyway. So the bishop cannot be taken, and so the queen needs to step to some awkward square, which is excellent because then the attack is way more dangerous if the queen cannot join the defense. So in the game there happened queen to e1. Now the queen is not ready to join at all, and black is ready to strike. Now, why is this a situation where you should consider, can I strike for the win now? In fact, black got all his attackers, except maybe one piece, in. So all those 5 pieces are attacking in an excellent way. So you cannot really increase your advantage of having more pieces because they are already all there, and once you're waiting too long, it will vanish because white might bring some defenders, trade the bishop, bring the queen over, defend the king side a bit. So it won't become any better. And situations where it won't become any better, there you really need to consider, can I strike now? Because otherwise you need to go back and lose your advantage. So of course this move rook e8 is also a good move, bringing one more attacker, but it also allows to bring one more defender. So I would actually try to make this strike immediately happen, as bishop f4 looks like, this defender is very, 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 very valuable. So the move to consider is, of course, capture. So we need to think about this bishop takes h3, and it indeed works very well. Bishop to h3, pawn takes, and one key thing is here that due to this pinned pawn, it's really not possible to organize any defense along the second rank. You cannot play something like f3 taking care of the g4 square. So white is really paralyzed here, as knight g4 will come against almost everything, and then there will be a checkmate on h2. So white needs to play knight to f4 here immediately, trying to make the queen here uncomfortable. But after queen to g4, knight to g2, it is pretty clear that black has enough for the piece. This h8 knight h1 knight is just way too passive, can never even come to g3 as it would just be taken. The g2 knight is also out of play. So even though being a piece down, black is in excellent shape. And in fact, black has a very strong move here, bringing him one more attacker into the attack. You can pause the video if you want to spot it on your own. A very strong move is knight to d7, trying to bring the knight into e5 and then into f3, and it's very hard to defend against it. Another good move would have been also to include the last piece, rook a to e8, just collecting the central pawn. Of course, it's important when you have the initiative not to trade the queens, because that would usually simplify the position too much and king safety would no longer be an issue. And here, black collects a lot of pawns. Still, the king stays in danger as long as we keep the queens on the board, and black is a lot better here. However, knight d7 is very nice. This plan is hard to be prevented, and white could try queen e1. We don't want to trade as it would destroy our initiative. Instead, we play rook f3, interposing, and then we can smoothly bring all the pieces. And even though white has one extra piece, he cannot get his pieces into play. They are also stuck here because they need to guard f2, g2, and this knight just has no square available where to go. So after bishop e3, knight e5, bishop b6, a b6, black is still piece down, but the initiative is way too big. Black is just bringing all the pieces and then threatening some mating ideas like queen to h3, followed by knight to g4. Let's see how the game might continue. Queen to h3. Now rook to e1, preempting the threat of knight g4, so that now if knight g4, which is not great, white would not be in the danger of being mated and thus could take the rook on f3 as queen h2, king f1 is not quite mate. So black first brings the rook, renewing the threat, since the rook now is defended, renewing the threat of knight to g4. Also f2 is dropping now, so black could try knight to f5, trying to block the connection of the rooks, but now there is knight g4 as the queen is still guarding the rook, and black is completely winning here. So I hope this could give you some more and some deeper understanding of how to play with the initiative, bring in your pieces, create threats, but also get to know how to strike, when to strike, and not to rush. Usually it works when you have all the pieces into the game, a huge lead in development, and you must take care that you don't want to strike too early. So that's it for this video. If you like it, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.